There we go.
All right, gents. We're live here, Brand Brothers, on a Friday.
It's a good
Happy Friday. Where does this find you?
Happy Friday to you guys.
Yes.
I'm actually at home. I'm not on the road.
That's right. Wow, what an amazing feat. Bimma, you've been on the road for a while. I have as well. Back at home is amazing. Ashwinn, you stay in New York a lot, or do you travel at all?
I am in New York. I was in Paris last weekend. Did not see any live events, unfortunately.
Wow.
Travel a decent amount, but I'm kind of home for a little bit.
Yeah. Wow. What took you to Paris? Business or pleasure?
Just pleasure.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. No, it was a good time.
It hasn't even hit me up. I want to go to Paris.
Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of Paris, we are going to jump into an Olympics extravaganza. We are going to break down the winners and losers of the Olympics, whether they're on the podium or not. We don't care because we care about branding and marketing here. So we've got several things we're going to talk about. Simone Biles and a viral image, that amazing capitalization that Mercedes-Benz has done. Ashwinn is going to lead us in that. We have Noah Lyles, who wants a signature shoe, who miraculously somehow meddled with COVID. How policies have changed in a short couple of years. They're just like, yeah, he's positive for COVID. He's right here in the middle of the Olympic Village. Yeah, just run him out there. 2 years ago, the man would have been sent to an island or something. But anyway, signature shoe talk there. We've got who is the stars of the Olympics we're going to talk about. What else, gents? We had Sha'Carri Richardson. Yeah. KD, Nike conspiracies. Breakdancing is now an Olympic sport. So we've got all kinds of things today. Calgary, Canada. Absolutely incredible. Brian, we're going to get to questions here in just a little bit, but if y'all are joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. I'm going to flip on my neon sign here because we got to have the studio set up.
Did that Nike light just turn on?
It did just turn on. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Fancy, Ashwinn. He's fancy. He's got tricks. Sports marketing. They got tricks.
We have tricks. This neon sign is actually from the Nike office in Dallas. We had a huge display that was in the waiting room, and when Nike closed the Dallas office, they sold it to another company, and the company loved the sign so much, but they took out it had all this Texas theme stuff and sports theme around it. They took the swoosh out of the middle and then just replaced their own. So the office gave me the Nike swoosh, and that's right. Bimma, is your microphone hooked up? Just while we're doing tech, do you have your audio, or is it pulling from your computer? Yes, but it doesn't sound like your normal fancy mic.
Yeah, I think that's coming from your computer.
Indeed. Y'all, there's all kinds of setup things you have here. This thing is not for the faint of heart. Your boy's got a camera now. I opted for the basic B microphone today because the wireless just gives you craziness. All right. So
how about that? Am I better?
Nope. Same.
No. Well, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. It's all to the good, but I know you're used to your bougie mic. Okay, there it is. There's your fancy mic. All right.
Here.
Before we hop into Olympics extravaganza, since Ashwinn has a lot of experience in CPG. Bimma is our collab marketing specialist. I have a spot that I want to show y'all. Liquid Death, in their infinite genius marketing capabilities, just did a collaboration with Bad Birdie Golf. And Bad Birdie sent me this stuff. I've got my Liquid Death here. This is not a paid placement, but it caused me to go through, and I was dying. I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna try to show you the spot real quick. It's pretty freaking funny. So they basically do this like, here, I'm gonna show you. Can we hear this stuff? Can y'all hear this?
Yeah, that's coming through.
Oh, baby,
Okay.
Welcome to the Euro Club Challenge, brought to you by Bad Birdie and Liquid Death. Today we have Chatty, the left-hand Leesky, versus the Prince of Penbar, Adam Ulibarri. The rules of the game: lowest score wins. But for every hole, the challenger has to drink a full.
Oh man, it froze on me.
Yeah, I think that's cutting out, Jordan.
Jordan might have cut out too. We might have lost him, Ashwinn.
I think we lost Jordan.
Damn, man. You know, this is what happens, right? You're dealing with tech, you're dealing with internet, and it always seems to go out. Hopefully he can restart and he'll come back in.
Drinking death while you golf?
You guys
But
have me
hey,
back?
having to run to the woods to relieve yourself? Well, there's an easier way. Thanks to the Liquid Death and Bad Birdie Edition Euro Club. It looks just like an ordinary golf club, but has a secret built-in reservoir to discreetly relieve yourself anytime, anywhere. Each Euro Club can hold up to half a liter of processed liquid death water or iced tea. And with this patented privacy towel, the best part is no one will ever know. People just assume you're cleaning your club.
Thanks to the Euro Club, I always have a hole in one.
Finally, no more leaving the green to go make a yellow.
I went in the club. The Euro Club.
So order your Euro Club today from liquiddeath.com/badbirdie. Hurry, supplies are limited. And while you're there, shop the rest of the Liquid Death and Bad Birdie apparel collection.
All right. So this, you may have to understand some of golf to understand, you know, the people go pee by trees. I mean, this stuff is. I went and looked in Liquid Death's feed, and they have a collaboration with all kinds of people. They got a collaboration with a makeup company. They've got Neon Sign. They have all kinds of collaborations, and I'm curious, like, what y'all think is the strategy here. You know, seemingly they're selling water. What is the benefit for them collaborating with other companies, like a golf polo company? So they're making, you know, golf polos with a lot of their branding, like the skulls and chainsaws and all this stuff. They've got merch and T-shirts. What's a water company doing this? What's somebody else thought?
For me, Liquid Death is like, they literally figure things out from a brand marketing standpoint, right? Like they're selling water faster than anyone's selling water, and it's literally just water, right? But the graphics and the attitude and the tone of voice are resonating with a different audience. And so, you know, they've been able to put themselves in a good position where they got some cash on hand, right? And so I think for them, it's an opportunity to expand that brand, to have some fun and do some unexpected things, but they can start to target all of these niche communities through these collaborations, right? So it feels way more personal. Everyone can start to kind of have their Liquid Death moment, whether it's golf to makeup to apparel, etc. And this is, you know, this is how you want to do it. You don't want your business to be reliant on collabs. You want collabs to be a way to continue to drive interest, but not, you know, your whole tactic. So, I mean, that's pretty funny. Like, I'm not a golfer, but that's a pretty funny spot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ashwinn. I was just showing here. They've got like makeup. They're doing like a sauna collab here. I mean, they're rolling them out like more than I even imagined the other day. When I just on the top of my mind. So they've got these apparel collaborations that they're doing constantly. So go ahead.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is almost every collaboration that they hit, they are not just doing like co-branded products, like, hey, you're Bad Birdie, let's make a Liquid Death t-shirt, you know, and like, let's mock up some little design. And like, that's what most brands will do, right? Just a hyper simple, straightforward collab where it's kind of cross promotional on products. It almost seems like with every collab that they do, they come up with some novel, interesting product that is new to both brands that taps into the culture of that brand. So Bad Birdie, it's like, okay, we're speaking to golfers, we're having fun, we're being a little irreverent. Great. We don't need to make another just like golf polo or golf club. How can we really kind of create some conversation here that is going to drive kind of like virality and social commentary and really get people to pay attention in a way that's not, oh, like, great, Bad Birdie in my feed, like, hey, they have a, you know, golf polo with Liquid Death. That's not that interesting. And so it's pretty stunning how they continually execute on creating these kind of novelty products like that, and then building this whole like amazing video campaign around it and social. Like they're doing it with such velocity. It's kind of stunning.
Yes.
But I think to Bimma's point is they are in doing this, they're speaking to new audiences and pulling in new audiences to not necessarily become buyers of Liquid Death, but to at least ask the question like, what is Liquid Death?
What is Liquid Death?
I think that's probably one of the most important questions or kind of creative challenges that Liquid Death has, because as they're selling in retail, you know, they're in the water category, but everyone looks at them and it's just like, that looks like a beer or an alcoholic drink, to the point where I've even seen in-store merchandising that just says like, relax, like it doesn't kill you, it's just water, you know? They're it's tongue in cheek, but the reality there is they need to communicate to a consumer who's seeing them for the first time that like, hey, this is not an alcoholic beverage. This is simply just water. And so they're attacking that not just from the retail side, but also from this like really clever and interesting marketing side that just gets people to say like, draw some intrigue. Like, okay, what is this Liquid Death thing? So I love it. I mean, I talk about them endlessly.
You know what
Yeah.
they remind me of? This strategy reminds me of like when Supreme had its heyday of like tchotchke add-on collabs, and they would do, I don't know, bricks, or they would do lighters, you know, they would do
Fire extinguishers,
Stanley Cups, Filey. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
it reminds me of that, just on steroids.
It's so true. I mean, so the other thing, you know, I think for people, one of the best definitions that I've loved to hear about brand is brand. One of the definitions of brand is the delta between what a commodity costs and what people are willing to pay for something. And so you take an example of a white t-shirt, right? A white t-shirt that's like, let's say just a basic white tee, it probably costs what, $2 to manufacture, $3. So if you're going to buy a Hanes white t-shirt, that's probably $7, maybe $10. If you buy a Nike white t-shirt and it has a swoosh on it, maybe it's $25. If you buy a Gucci white t-shirt, it's $250. And there's not that major material difference between the three or the four, but it's what people are willing to pay based on their perception of a brand. First, I'm going to pause there. What do you guys think about that definition? I've always kind of liked it. What do y'all think?
So I think that is relevant for some categories, especially in apparel, right? Where
Yep.
like you are, for the most part, selling just a pure commodity product. Like, what's the difference between this cotton shirt versus a Gucci cotton shirt? It's like probably the same, and like the cost to manufacture probably the same. So I think brand there actually explains a delta. Where I
Yep.
think that definition is maybe a little bit limiting is that there are budget brands. I mean, like Walmart is a brand, like everyday lowest prices. You know, they have
That's
a
fair.
phenomenal brand, and I wouldn't say it has like, you know, I can envision necessarily the personality of Walmart the same way I can envision the personality of Liquid Death. But I think it's totally right for certain categories when kind of asking the question of, well, what is investing in brand do for you? And it allows that like affinity to be built with your brand so that consumers will, you know, are a little bit more, you know, price insensitive or inelastic or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I mean, you could do that in different ways, right? Like, you know, Amazon, people don't think about Amazon as a brand marketing company, but you got to go back to like 2 days free shipping or whatever that campaign was that they launched like years ago, that literally took them from like competing with Walmart to no longer competing with Walmart in that regard, because they literally became the brand known for like, oh, I can get this in 2 days, or I can get this actually in 5 hours, right? Like that was a part of like their marketing proposition. They didn't do collabs, they didn't do big billboards, they literally just put it on their vans and they just went to town promoting that. And that's, you know, to me, that's just another way to go about it.
Well, yeah, no, you're exactly right. And a brand, one of the definitions that I utilize is like a brand is a space that occupies in someone's mind, the place that a person or business occupies in someone's mind. So for Amazon, that might be efficiency. That might be Prime. That might be overnight shipping. That might be free shipping. For Walmart, that might be lowest prices anywhere. The thing, I'm bringing up this image because I happened to be in the grocery store last week in North Carolina, and I went to get some sparkling water, and I noticed a lot of the sparkling water was, $5 for a 12 pack, $6. And I look at the Liquid Death, and you probably have to zoom in here, but it's $15 for a pack of 8 of them. Now there's differences because it's like a huge can. It's got a little bit more. It's got 19 ounces versus 12 ounces. But even in price per ounce that they would do there, Liquid Death is almost at 10 cents per ounce versus every other, which was around 4, 5, 6. The only other one that was competing was Topo Chico, which as a Texan, I absolutely love and respect. And I think that is the right way. But
top
I feel
tier.
like, yeah, it's absolutely top tier. But like this to me shows how you can command a bigger price when you have, not only is your packaging different and crazy and it stands out, but you have all this incredible content and you have this space in people's mind that's like, this thing is fun, this is different. And I think it's just such a fascinating case study in completely investing in the absurd. And so we talk about as content creators, right? There's the 3 pillars for what people might exist, right? It's you're either going to be educational, you're going to be inspirational, or you're going to be entertaining. And I think that fully falls into this like entertainment proposition. And the water is just a byproduct.
I'd be curious between the 3 of us, like if you think about seltzer waters, like of the 3 that you just mentioned, Topo Chico, LaCroix, and Liquid Death, like what's your purchasing decision? You know what I mean? Like what's the brand that you're like, yo, this is the one I'm getting? I mean, I have an answer. And I'll tell you now. What's so interesting to me is like I am aware of Liquid Death, but I am not going out of my way. I'm 100% a Topo Chico cat all day long.
What's trending up there in the East Coast, Ashwinn? What do you? I mean, you actually study this stuff, so what are you drinking, and does it have an effect on your choices?
Did he go get a can? Did you go?
No. So what's so interesting, right, is to Bimma's point. I know a lot about Liquid Death. I love the brand. Even in stores, am I buying Liquid Death? No, I'm just buying Spindrift because Spindrift is cheaper, and like LaCroix is cheaper. I'm buying whatever is just like running, like Whole Foods is running like the discount of the week. And it's like, all right, let's just get that. And I think there is this interesting book called How Brands Grow, which is written from the standpoint of how from like large CPG brands and how they really grow. And it kind of says like, hey, a lot of like branding and marketing people really over-index on branding and like retaining your loyal customers. But like the key lessons are actually distribution is the most important thing that matters for actually growing your brand, right? Just like having the points of availability. To Bimma's point, I'm not going to go out of the way. So you kind of have to meet there. And then the second thing is focusing on the majority of your revenues are actually coming from new users, not returning users. So you don't need to keep focusing on like the kind of loyalty. And I'm probably representing some of the actual insights from this book. It's actually really dense and very like breaks down the stats and is very insightful and is kind of a thick read to get through. But I think there's really important lessons in there for actually thinking, hey, this brand is not at a scale where they're doing $10 million anymore, $20 million. There, you can like get to that point through investing in like insane like brand marketing and direct response marketing and finding those niches. They're now at a place where it's like they're playing a distribution game at like with the big boys, with like LaCroix and Topo Chico and Coke and Pepsi and these guys. And it's different.
All right. So my last question on this is, I feel like, particularly like with the rise of TikTok, we've been saying, hey, this overproduced content, it's not the way anymore. And maybe I'm conflating, creators versus brands, but Liquid Death is all extremely well produced. It is shot on great cameras. And a lot of this is the writing and the humor. I'm curious, like what y'all think, because we had this debate at Nike all the time. Nike cannot get away from premium, aspirational, beautiful content. You know, and we would try to do kind of the TikTok style, the mobile phone, and all that. Like, where in this ecosystem now does beautiful premium content still exist, and where does it work, and how?
Man, I got a hot take on this.
Let's
Yeah, I
go.
got a strong take, but go first, Bimma.
Oh, let's go.
You know, I think all of this is subjective, and I think it's all based on what you can level with and resonate with your audience. I hate when brands chase what other people are doing. I hate when brands chase what trends they see happening on TikTok and Instagram, etc. I am a total fan of like, yo, this is who the fuck we are, and this is what we're going to do, and like, we're going to do it the best that we can do. We're going to be relevant in the space, and we're going to go hard at that. Yes, you can make adjustments. Yes, you can make some tweaks, right? So that it does like resonate a bit more with what's current. But I like the notion of like being penalized because you chose to use a certain camera or you chose to use a certain figure is crazy to me, right? I don't agree with devaluing creative. I do believe in that creative has to meet the viewer and the audience where they are, but I'm just like, no way. Like, I'm sorry. Like, to me, like, if Nike chose to do that, that's their move. If Outdoor Voices chose to do a different way, if Liquid Death chose to choose their vibe, that is the visual center and the content direction that they decided to go in. And I think you just got to own that, but you can't, like, to me, just like everything starts to look the same.
Yeah.
That's just me though.
So do you? Yeah, and that's right. And that would be, I mean, that's true to branding, you know, like I said this about Nike the other day. Someone was criticizing the new campaign, which we can talk about, you know, on the Olympics discussion, but I would rather die for who we are than like die trying to be someone else, you know.
Man, I mean, here's a perfect example, Jordan. We all create content and we all do it differently, right?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people for like a year straight would tell me, Bimma, your camera's too crispy. It doesn't look like the rest of Instagram and TikTok, yada, yada, yada. And then I found my pocket and these videos start doing these numbers. And I'm like, if I would have listened to these people, I literally would have been like breaking my back to change my whole aesthetic for something that didn't even make sense, because the only thing that was off was the subject matter, you know? So like, to me, it's just like, you gotta like have confidence in your thing.
All right, Ashwinn, what's your hot? I agree. What's your hot take?
So
on
I
premium
think
video?
I think that the conversation around moving away from hi-fi, and it's certainly something that I've talked about, especially as I talk to brands. And I say this with the caveat. I think there's two reasons why this was like, why people who are making social content, you know, JT would talk a lot about this. JT Barnett talks a lot about like branding and or TikTok content and social content for brands, is that we came from this world in Instagram where everything was highly shot and produced and edited and hyper visual. And so you have the small brands coming from a kind of like photo era of like the 2010s, bringing that into short form content, which was not necessarily the right leap to make. So it's like, okay, let's pull back from that a little bit. And then you also have the larger brands, which are coming from the TV and broadcast world, saying, hey, this 2-minute commercial that we shot, let's kind of cut it down for social. But you cut down like an Audi commercial of the Audi just like going on the Autobahn on these curves, and you cut it down to 30 seconds on Instagram. And it's like, dude, it's still an ad. It wasn't a good commercial on TV. You just never got engagement metrics for it. And so it's certainly not a good commercial on Instagram, because now you're seeing the engagement metrics. They're not there. And so it was basically this admonition to brands like, hey, you don't feel intimidated to make content, brands and creators, whoever, don't feel intimidated to make content that you need all this high production gear to shoot video just because we're talking about video. You can actually just take out your iPhone and talk to the camera. And to Bimma's point, the most important thing here is what is the content and what is the hooks? If you're Nike, you can make super ultra premium, well shot, 8K, whatever content you want, but it better be made for a 30-second or 1-minute video that's going to work well on Instagram. So it's like, you just got to speak you got to speak the language of the platform. I don't care about the execution.
I'm aligned. He's right. And that's the other thing is like, stop, you have to make specific content to the platform. You can't, to Ashwin's point, the days of like literally taking a TV ad and trying to chop that down versus making something specifically for the space is asinine.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Go ahead.
I have a question for you guys now that we're talking about this. So I have a buddy who's a commercial director, and he shot stuff for Nike. He shot some really cool campaigns, and I'm asking him about what that entire process and world looks like. Because he's telling me, hey, we shot this 3-minute video for Volvo, and my question is just like, where does that video live? Where in 2024, where does that video go? And he's like, I think they run it on their website, and like they maybe cut it down into like some social stuff and cut it down into some TV stuff. And I'm like, wow, well, those are 3 entirely different like media and use cases. And it's not really his objective to even find out where it's going to be used, right? Like that part of the process is a little divorced from it. So I'm like, they're putting these $2 million budgets on these videos, but like, where are these videos going?
Yes. Okay.
I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys.
This is a great point. And this is like how I honestly think I've tried to build a lot of my content stuff on like, I did a video on KD and Nike, and a lot of people were like, why isn't KD and the Nike? And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to excuse this decision, but I will explain the decision. And I think in this Volvo instance, right, you watch in these global organizations, there are so many cooks in the kitchen, right? That like you play this game of telephone that, somebody may brief that in and say, hey, we need to, we're going to launch our new XC90 or whatever the Volvo is, right? And so they're going to say, oh, it's an outdoor vehicle. We need to show it in this beautiful thing. Okay, we're going to have some broadcast. Okay, we're going to have, some social, and then we also need it for our web. Well, then by the time you then brief in a creative agency who then also goes and finds and sources a director and a production company, like you're now 5 steps removed. By the time you get to this director, you're 5 steps removed from the person who like briefed in the original thing. So I would do this all the time where I would end up being on set, and on a Nike set, you'd have 25, 30 people. And a lot of times I think, that principle where they say, if you need someone to call 911, like in the CPR thing, you say, you call 911. Because if no one, I saw this the other day, somebody said, if everyone's watching the kids, no one's watching the kids at a pool. And so you have to have someone who is specifically responsible for different verticals. And because I was in social, I would say, hey, are you shooting that? Like I would sometimes go to the director of photography or whoever, and I'd be like, are you shooting this for vertical? Because this is going to go vertical. We need vertical video. And then, and directors hate shooting anything vertical. They have resisted for years. They want the wide panoramic. And so they are shooting for beautiful classic film. That's how they were trained. And so again, you see this breakdown in the communication and then the training and education. And so I would go and be very specific in the briefing process about like, this needs to be shot for vertical video primarily. And if it can be used wide, so be it. And so, that's it's a really painful process though, going through like, hey, we've got to capture and if you're trying to shoot everything from broadcast all the way down to social, some brands are getting smarter. I'll close this out by saying like, some brands are now finally getting smarter by having a camera dedicated to social and then someone who can shoot for the broadcast, and you're not trying to like create the same thing, but that's how it happens. And it's, I'm not excusing it. I'm just explaining it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. All right, let's jump into the Olympics here. I think we need to start perhaps with. I'm not going to start with that one. I'm going to start with Simone Biles and Mercedes. I actually have no context until you sent this in the group chat. Ashwinn, tell us where you came across it, and it's absolutely amazing.
So let me ask you this. What do you guys think about this ad?
I love it.
I think it's incredible.
I love it.
How do you think Mercedes pulled this together?
They took an AP image. I mean, they either briefed Simone ahead of time, which I'll actually show you some examples that I think like Adidas might have coached their athletes, but they either some genius ad agency like knew this was coming and was so if y'all don't know, you can brief an AP photographer. Sometimes you can hire out as an official sponsor. You can brief an AP photographer and say, this is the shot I'm looking for. So they potentially could have said, hey, go get her profile during this whatever thing. Try to obscure anyone from behind her if you can. But that's probably maybe a little too much, maybe giving them credit for planning ahead. But,
yeah,
what do you think?
I think there's a part of this that's planning, right? I think the briefing happened. I don't think Simone was briefed on this. I think this is a pose that she's done a numerous amount of times, right? This is like we've seen, a lot of gymnasts have to do this pose, whether it's on the floor or etc. What I think is so brilliant about this is that you love moments like this where they feel like they're absolutely seamless. And this is one of those moments where it feels seamless. And the other thing about this, right, for Mercedes brand is like being associated with Simone in this moment just reinforces their brand values and the brand positioning, right? She's, 7 gold medals, I believe. I hope I didn't get that stat wrong, but coming off with an injury and she's still being able to do this. Obviously, her body is starting to impact her in different ways right now. But I as a marketer, you can't ask for anything better here right now. And I'm not sure anyone else is having a better brand moment in regards to something like this in the Olympics.
Okay.
But to me, Ashwin, I would just say one more thing. Like, to me, this is spectacle more than like an amazing. This is it's like made for social. It's like to go to those points and like if we're gonna say inspirational, educational, or entertaining, this to me is complete entertainment because I think the reason this works so well is like, oh my God, look how cool that is that this person is like contorted into the logo. I don't know that it's like doing major things for Mercedes brand in an aspirational way.
So this is really interesting because this was all over LinkedIn. I saw a Reddit post that had 18,000 upvotes. There's news articles. Mercedes has like won with this campaign, blah, 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 blah. The reality of this is that this was a spec ad created by this guy, Zed Anwar.
I knew it. I could not find it anywhere on Mercedes' channel.
Yes, Mercedes has not said anything about this naturally, and we'll kind of get to that. So there's this guy who's like a creative director, kind of advertising guy, just kind of likes this kind of stuff, and he makes this ad, and I don't know what his original post was. I want to say it was on LinkedIn, but it immediately starts getting shared. And if you want to talk about the game of telephone, right? When something gets shared on the internet, you look at this and it's like, that's a Mercedes ad, right? The average consumer is not really in the world where we're thinking like, hey, someone may have made a fake ad for Mercedes, right? So look at it, like the execution is pretty good. There's like some questions about just like the logo and like the positioning of it and like should they have like represented their mark again or should they just have Mercedes? Like there's some fine-tuned details that are off, but to I think 98% of people who look at this, they're like, oh yeah, it's a Mercedes ad. That's sick, Yeah,
it's close enough.
It's close enough.
God,
and so it is being shared everywhere. And there's some, there's some loose stats out there that's gotten like over a few 100 million impressions. Like it was really just shared widely across so many platforms. Yeah. I think this is the guy actually.
This is the guy. And of course, this is, the internet. Like this dude has, I don't know, 460 likes, 11 comments is the highest engaged he's got. But if you look at like this one, they've shared it here. Then everyone has gone from there. The Reddit is, like you said, it's got 16,000 upvotes. So whoever posted it to Reddit has gotten even more.
It's either Reddit or like I saw it just shared over and over on LinkedIn. So I wonder if maybe the original post maybe started there, but people just reshare it and everyone will say like, oh, this is a smart partnership between Mercedes and Simone, and people are going back and forth in the comments. So it's interesting. So you know, like Mercedes hasn't, as far as I can tell, has not said anything about this. But this is you know, interesting from Mercedes' standpoint. If I'm Mercedes, I'm like, well, most people look favorably upon this ad. They think we're smart for this. We didn't have to pay any royalties or get usage rights or anything. So we're just going to step out of it. And someone made a fake ad using our logo. I mean, are we going to go like penalize this guy? I don't even know what recourse Mercedes had.
This is how you participate in culture. This is the opposite of what Nike is doing right now. You do not sue or send a cease and desist to creatives who are literally celebrating your brand better than you are celebrating your brand in the moment. So no, you don't do anything about this.
You're right. I was like, I was looking Ashwinn, like, because you sent that this morning. I was like, oh wow, I hadn't seen this. And I was doing all this searching, and the most I could find was like her and her G-Wagon. You know, I guess she's done like a few posts about her and her G-Wagon. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's authentic. Maybe Mercedes is sponsoring them. But to my knowledge, Mercedes is not a official sponsor of the Olympics, nor do they need to be. I mean, yeah,
they want
you let this run, and you get credit. I mean, now I would, okay. Where are we talking about this? Okay, this could potentially be a good segue for the KD stuff. But like, I think if I were Mercedes, what I would maybe do is, Ashwinn, I love like your the comments with content. And I think like, if I were Mercedes, like maybe invite this guy to come do something, you know, or like bring him on your channel to do something. Like, you know, this is the kind of fun that you could have if they're wanting to tap into a younger audience, which you could argue Mercedes probably doesn't care. Maybe they're trying to get their C class or like their entry level, you know, cars, but like you could do something fun with this designer. And if not that, I don't know where he is, but maybe you're a local dealer and you try to do some fun like content around this, but that's where you could capitalize upon the beauty of social.
Yeah, I totally think that's right. My question to you guys, both coming from large corporate and Nike, is there any downside? Is there any legal risk of Mercedes getting involved in any capacity with this person where Simone Biles and whatever Olympics, whoever, come to Mercedes and say, hey, even you like reposting that ad, but claiming that you didn't make it is still using her image and likeness for commercial purposes for your brand. Like, does Mercedes run a risk there from a legal standpoint that it's just not worth it to engage?
Yes,
they can't touch it.
Yeah, they can't.
They can't.
Sorry.
Olympics,
fair point.
Literally, right? The Olympics, New Balance and Joe Fresh did something. Did a friend named Cousin exhibit in Paris last week, and they couldn't say anything about the Olympics because the Olympics is extremely diligent about if you are not a sponsor, you are not mentioning it, you are not using logos. Like, they are very specific about the language that is used, and they will come after you.
They absolutely will, especially the IOC. They're notorious for it. But look, I think this is actually a great segue because Kevin Durant. So I think this will actually give us a little bit of a playbook for how they could work with this. So, okay, for those of y'all who don't know, Nike launched their new Olympic campaign a couple weeks ago. Winning isn't for everyone. The initial big brand spot featured a ton of Olympians, and the only male basketball player that they featured who is currently alive was LeBron James in his USA jersey. If you don't know, Kevin Durant is actually like the all-time leading scorer and something else in Olympics history. And so KD went to his Instagram and posted, based on the copy of this post, like, Nike, tell me, am I a bad person? Posted this on his story. KD is notorious for this, of like, you know, kind of calling people out. And here he was like, been with y'all every step of the way, even during the quarantine Olympics. And then his agent, Rich Kleiman, is like, it's nice to be seen. You know, Kith put him in this. So this is definitely a nod of like going, hey, Nike, y'all didn't include us in this. And there's a lot of frustration with that. But then Nike responded, and sorry, I'm just going to pull it up because they did. Shoot, I'm so sorry. Nike then pulled up. They did a billboard post and said, "Is KD a bad person? No, he's the baddest." And it's here it is. Here's the spot. So this went up in all these billboards. They did a branded video spot, and this is now the copy that they use for the thing. And it's like, is KD a bad person? No, he's the baddest. My God, I love this. I did a video on it yesterday, and they went all over. And so this to me is like amazing. You don't have to like fully acknowledge the original post. You don't have to go back. You don't have to dig it up, but you can totally play on it and play into the comments and all of the negativity that was happening, because enragement equals engagement, if we remember this, y'all. And if you look at the engagement on all of their Olympic posts, so outside of the initial, the initial one only has 3 million views, or sorry, 14 million. KD's has 25 million. The next highest has 13. So you can really play into what the conversation is going on in social, and it absolutely will cause it to take off. And of course, most of the, comments are like, he's a bad dude and all this, and like, oh, Nike's making a make good. My last point on this is basically, we've had Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, say the number one stat that they're looking for is shares. And that brings us back to like Liquid Death. So if you are not creating something that is like entertaining or share worthy, then your content is probably not going to go. And you can imagine, as soon as this KD thing launched, people are like, oh snap, look, hey, remember KD was talking shit? Like, we got to get him in. And so this is like a beautiful way to participate in that social commentary and controversy and capitalize upon it.
No, I thought it was smart, and it's something that I didn't expect Nike to do, because they had already made the decision, and it just seemed like it wasn't a thing. They also was like, yeah, we saw those other comments from KD as well as from his agent, but a part of us is still like, is it real? Was it real? Was it part of the campaign? I don't know, but either way, they benefited off of it. Everyone benefited off of it, and it was really smart.
I think this is a really important point in how every brand, and again, especially large brands, have this conversation or like planning a year in advance where they'll say, well, we want to tap into culture, right? So like, what are the cultural events this year that we're going to tap into? They'll think of their tentpole moments. They'll try to build PR around it, all of this stuff. I can promise you, whatever Nike's plan for tapping into culture at the beginning of the year was, it did not account for this. And this is probably the most culturally relevant thing that they could have done this year, because they were responsive to a moment that happened on social that got more exposure than their original campaign. And it's like, that is the lesson for every marketing team. Like, you become culturally relevant at the beginning of the year. If I told you, hey, we're going to be culturally relevant by inserting ourselves into a campaign with Brat Summer, it's like, what's Brat Summer? Well, we don't know, because it doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't exist yet.
So we cannot plan for that. So the way to actually plan for that is to build the creative team and give them the flexibility to respond very, very quickly. Because if Nike released that 3 months later, after they get all the sign-offs, they throw up the billboards, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Dude, you came 3 months late. The conversation was happening yesterday. So you have to be there in the next 24 hours, 48 hours. So yeah, I think it's almost stunning that they did respond to that and like did turn that around quickly.
No, Ashwin's dropping all the bars right now. I couldn't agree more. Like, in today's marketplace, you have to be active. You cannot be 3 months planned. You have to literally be like in the conversation, and you have to have the team set up so that they can be able to be a part of the cultural conversation that's happening.
Well, okay, my favorite moment of this, I have to just share, is Nike, you can do, these are the best moments when you can participate in this. So if I go all the way back to 2017, I was working in Nike football and was often around social. We had these 40-yard dash shoes that were made specifically for the combine. They were an alteration of an actual football cleat. And John Ross was not like a highly touted wide receiver coming out, but the dude, sorry, I should back up and say Adidas had this campaign that said, if you Adidas Island 40, if you break the 40-yard dash, they will auction off. They will. They're offering an island to any NFL prospect who breaks the 40-yard dash record in their cleats. And so the year before they had like $1 million bonus, and then this year they had an island. And nobody. The record only gets broken once every 15 years or so. And so we had this very quick meeting to figure out. We had John Ross then pose with the cleats afterwards, and is like a total dig to Adidas. The copy that we wrote for him was on an island all his own. John Ross breaks the 40, and it like broke every social metric, previously to that date, because everybody in like the football landscape knew that this was the thing. And if you're able to like get those approvals, work with the athlete, and figure it out quick enough, this is where the magic happens. And it's probably my favorite part of working in marketing and social, when you can capitalize on this, activity.
You're branded as rival brands. Why not play into it with the marketing? It's just simple. This is a very simple things that I don't understand why they don't happen more often.
Yeah, and I think they're the best when they're subtle. This is like,
yeah,
like you didn't have to say like, oh, KD, we're sorry you're mad. Like, no, it was just like it was a little nod to his copy. It was a little nod to theirs. And people are smart, they'll pick up on it. And even when you leave room for interpretation, that's where the debate comes. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
All right. Who are the other winners of the Olympics so far? I have a couple of ideas, but
I want to talk about Noah.
Anybody come on?
I want to talk
about Noah first.
I want to talk about Noah thing.
Okay. All right. Noah Lyles. Go ahead. Set it up for us.
No, Noah Lyles won the 100-meter, right? He's the fastest man alive. Just to clarify, that doesn't mean he's the fastest man ever. But when you win the Olympics, you are the fastest man alive based on that, not based on the world record or anything like that. So I just want to clarify that, because there's a lot of like language around that seems to be getting lost. But anyway, Noah didn't win by a ton, but he won. And
he won the 100,
leading up
right?
to that, he won the 100, and leading up to that, right? He's constantly been in the media for being extremely talkative. The comments that he made about the men's basketball team saying they're not world champions. He's like, world champions of what? And so, he's gotten a lot of interesting press and responses to his personality. But anyway, he wins, and he then basically demands that he needs to have a signature sneaker because spikes don't sell, and there's no money in spikes, I believe was the actual quote. And he's like, I need a sneaker. I need a signature sneaker after this. And so, it raised the question, Jordan, you had a question, right, around it. And mine wasn't necessarily if this was going to happen. I mean, it's he's in the category of like, it can't happen. I'm more so in the category of, can it sell?
Exactly.
Like, that's more of my question, right? So after this, right, he goes on to run the 200 meter. He was supposed to double, and he loses. He comes in third, and then they announce he had COVID. And so in one regard, you could look at it and you could say, man, that dude is like tough as hell. He went and ran, and he had COVID, and he still finished third. He still medaled. On the other hand, some people are like,
kind of wild.
Damn, that's hella reckless.
Especially up in Portland.
He's like hugging people after. I'm like, damn, man.
Here we are.
If you got the flu, I don't want you coughing on me.
It is wild, bro. Like, honestly, like I saw him in the mask in pregame, like cruising through the locker room. And I was kind of like, is he just overly protective, or maybe he has a cough or something? And then like, it's just, I don't know, it's just wild how different our world has changed in the last 2 years for sure. But we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
What do you think, though? After this, what do you think about this whole signature sneaker conversation in regards to track and field, in regards to Noah Lyles, and not getting the double-double?
I mean, before I go, like, Ashwin, what do you think about all this ridiculousness from your vantage point? Any thoughts on Noah and his brand? I've certainly got my take.
Yeah, I almost think if they're to do it, one, they got to execute on it pretty quickly, right? Because again, he's in the conversation right now. And I think almost has to lean into the fact that he's like loud, he kind of runs his mouth. And it's like you play off that in a kind of self-deprecating way and like make these like really loud shoes. And it's like, Adidas leans into the fact he's like, he demanded like a signature sneaker, like here's your signature sneaker, and it's like they kind of work on this together, but it's not like this, incredibly like polished, super nice shoe. It's like leans into the fact he's a little bit irreverent and annoys people and pisses people off.
I actually think it's a great idea. You could throw together something quickly. And so my first point, I did a video on this a couple days ago. Like everybody's like, oh, he's how could you not like, oh, he's the fastest man on earth right now, blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, they have no context on how a freaking signature shoe is like an 18-month process if everything goes according to plan. And so my point is kind of, people don't realize how fickle, attention is. No one is going to be paying attention to who Noah Lyles is in literally 2 weeks, and in fact, after yesterday, he'll be gone from the consciousness, especially when you finish on a little bit of a downer note. And so the opportunity to me, which I was saying to Noah, I did some comparisons. Noah Lyles has 1.3 million followers on Instagram. He just crossed that during this time frame. If you compare that to the other signature athletes from Adidas, Messi, who's their biggest athlete, has 500 million followers. The man has 500 million followers. You look at Jude Bellingham, who is their new soccer signature guy. He's got 38 million. Anthony Edwards has 4 million, is a star in a movie, has a documentary coming about him, and he plays 82 games a year plus 16 games in the playoffs. And it's a national American sport that Adidas is trying to win in America. And so you take like 18-month timeline plus like his following. What I would do if I were Noah, I would take the power into my hands. He doesn't seem great on social, which I do want to get to Alona Mar before we finish today. He needs to take, if I were him, I would go fully invest in content. Whatever the contract is that he's gotten from this, I would fully invest in the content for him because he is loud, braggadocious. You could see he could have incredible social content. You could imagine him doing what Anthony Edwards has done, like go try to do fun stuff with basketball players after he pissed off the whole NBA. Like he could have a really fun YouTube channel and build his content franchise. And then that would force Adidas's hand and he has all that, like, I won't even pretend to know, like the Yu-Gi-Oh, the Pokemon, like all that stuff.
Oh yeah, don't get those confused. Do not get those confused.
I'll try not to.
I got buried this week. I got buried.
I bet you did. I don't even try because I know those fools will come at me. But I think a lot of athletes need to learn this, and they learn the lesson too late. You have to take that power and force the manufacturer's hands, because they are looking for attention, and that is the number one thing. And you need to be able to sell those shoes. And I do think he could sell those shoes from an ambassador standpoint. So yeah.
I think that for those reasons, I think that's the tough thing about trying to have a signature as a track and field athlete. There are some things that are changing as far as visibility. Michael Johnson has a new track and field circuit, TV rights, all that stuff. So it should make the sport more visible. But the challenge with that, obviously, is that it's just starting. So you can't expect it to be a hit out of the gate. And also to the fact that, the WNBA just started to really pick up steam. So sometimes these leagues and these circuits are going to take some time. So it's not a sure bet. The other thing is that I ran track, right? I've been a track athlete I had been a track athlete for 15 years. And here's the thing about track athletes is that mindset is vastly different than the mindset of people that are going to buy sneakers repeatedly. And so they might support that first drop, right? But the audience that they need that's going to support the continued drops are in the lifestyle category. And how does Noah resonate with the lifestyle category is going to take a lot of marketing work and strategy, and he's going to have to play ball with those things, right? Like, to me, it's hard to attract that audience when he's put out certain things that's already rubbed that audience the wrong way. Secondly, do they view him as a fashionable person? Thirdly, right, is the piece around what can he also show to resonate with people? A lot of times we can't resonate with our favorite athletes as far as like their skill set, or even our favorite musicians, or even, you know, our favorite designers. Like, they're just incredible, right? But where we resonate is when they're human. To me, the most human thing I saw Noah Lyles do was that tweet he put out where he said, I have asthma, I have depression, I have anxiety, and I still was able to show up and do my thing. And guess what? So can you. If they can lean into that, they have a shot. But this shoe has to be phenomenal. Otherwise, it goes nowhere.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And I do think that he's got he's got all the makings for a great signature athlete. But he would have to, you know, do some major work there. Speaking of major work, before we finish, I just have to show Alona Mar, to me, is like the star of the Olympics. I don't know if you guys have come across her content. She is the women's rugby player. She has crossed over 3 million followers on this, and literally grown by, I think, 2.5 million just since the Olympics started, which is amazing. She was already a great like TikTok vertical native person. If you don't know, I think Nike sponsors their uniform. Anyway, she didn't have a apparel sponsor before, but she did this Brooks one. I want to show it really quick because I think it's a great example of when a brand just turns over the keys to a creator and lets them cook in a relatable, funny way. So I'm just going to play this really quick. Brooks Running sponsored her, and she's like in her hotel room doing this content. Oh, shoot. Oh, here we go.
Hashtag run happy.
Hold on. Here she is.
Look, Brooks, I love you, and you know I do. But hashtag run happy doesn't always work for me because a lot of the times I'm not happy when I'm running, just personally. As a new Brooks girly, I've thought of some other hashtags we could workshop together. First one, hashtag run before your coach yells at you. Hashtag strut happy. Because I strut in my Brooks too. You should see me in my glycerins. I'm strutting on the street. Hashtag run at a comfortable pace. Hashtag walk. Hashtag run to get a sweet treat. Because I love sweets and I'll wear my Brooks to go get sweet treats.
Yes.
Hashtag jog. Because I don't know if what I'm doing is a run.
All right, so you get the point. I run, Brooks here in the comments. Run to get a sweet treat is the title of our autobiography. 4,000 likes on this. This to me is a great example. This is now Brooks has done a couple of good partnerships here in the last couple of months, in my opinion. And I think this is like some brands, we won't name names, are a little too precious with their brand sometimes. And this is how you end up relating. Like, I don't think this is killing Brooks's brand anyway. No one is going to say, oh, they're not a real running brand anymore. But you get a dynamic creator like this, and you can just turn over the keys to them. And you let them interpret your brand campaign. And we see it when you try to control and be the puppet string and say, okay, here's the copy. Imagine how much better this content is than if she had said, I love my glycerins because I hashtag run happy. And the way that I run happy is blah, blah. Shut up. Like, let her do her thing. Anyway.
To me, this is like, this is perfect for voiceover snippets, do micro vignettes, do micro anthems, like go nuts with this because she literally, those could be 15 seconds a piece and it could be her or it could be other people that want to participate in the story because they're just excited. To me, this is just organic legs that I would be all over.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that. So if I'm going to take a step back, I think the overarching theme of everything that we're talking about is that there was this old world, which a lot of brands have a way of thinking where your brand is a one-way broadcast. We're going to come up in our boardroom with the messaging and the marketing and the campaigns and the taglines. We're going to put it out there and then the consumer is going to passively accept that. That is like the complete old world. The new world is we're going to put something out there. And if people and creators want to tweak it, if they want to say, that's not good. Here's what I'd recommend instead, or here's how I do this. It's a conversation. And so brands are, again, so precious about like the messaging. Is this hurting Brooks? No, that got more people to pay attention to Brooks than Brooks has been able to do in the past like 20 years, right? So it's like, okay, you took this super lame campaign, #RunHappy, and now you are inviting people of like Run Angry, which is so much more relatable. You people in the comments like, dude, every time I go for a run, I'm like pissed off that I'm doing this, but I feel good about it. Again, like Bimma saying, you might have these other creators who are more interested in just like making their own unsponsored, unpaid content of like, this is me running unhappy, kind of like going back to Grimace Shake era, right? And like,
how I was just thinking Grimace Shake. I was just thinking Grimace. Yeah, took
off. And what I think is like, it's great that Brooks let them run with this. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this too, but I do a decent bit of sponsored content, and you'll get these creative briefs. And in the briefs, they'll say our campaign for Q2 is, I won't name anything, but like insert corny, trite phrase that is totally devoid of meaning, right? And they'll be like, how do you imagine bringing this to life? And like, make sure you mention it in the campaign and make sure you mention it in the video. And I'm just like, listen, if you're going to pay me to do this, I simply cannot in good faith say any of those things, right? I can maybe drop it in a caption, but you're actively hurting yourself if you want me to say these things. It's not how I speak to my audience. I don't believe that there's really anything meaningful to comment there. Let me do something different, right? And like 85% of the time that works, but there's this back and forth. But that's because I am like coming from the lens of, hey, I'm like a creator, but I also like do marketing and like I have like some insight there. Think about most creators, right? They're not coming from the marketing world or like the positioning or language and all this stuff. So they might get the brief and they'll be like, all right, the brand's paying me X. Like they want me to say like, hey, find your happy. It's like, all right, I'll say it. But like, no, what are we doing?
Yeah. You're so right. I'm often like, and when I've worked with big athletes, even in the last couple of years outside of Nike and working with brands, I'm like, I've called them and just been like, can help me help you. Like, this is what you're asking them to do is not good. It's not good for your brand. It's not good for their brand. This is not going to work. Like having 3 hashtags, having 5 talking points, like you're trying to get an athlete to regurgitate this crap. Like this is not going to work. I just wanted, since you commented that, like, dude, the best part about this is like, she loves Run to Get a Sweet Treat. Brooks loves to get a Run to Sweet Treat. This woman is saying Run Angry would be mine. This person is run at a comfortable pace. They say run amok, walk, run to get a sweet treat. Like, can you imagine all of the UGC and the follow-up comment replies you could do to this? So you could do like her like reply to that and go run to get her favorite sweet treat, do run amok and what that might look like, and really engage with all the people who've dropped in the comments. This is social marketing.
Genius.
Yes. Let's quickly talk about that a little bit tactically from Brooks's side, right? So when you have this creator that has gotten now 5 million views on her video and has all of these comments and people engaging with it, saying like, mine would be #run amok, mine would be #run to get a sweet treat, and they have likes on it. It's like, okay, if I'm Brooks, I'm looking at those, I'm just sorting by like the most popular comments, and it's like, how do we shoot the run amok video today? How do we shoot that vertical today? All right, we're going outside, we're like running through the mud, we're doing a reply video into that comment, just like Jordan said.
Yes.
Because all of those subsequent videos we make, we are pulling in traffic from the original post, from like everyone seeing Alana's video. And so it's like, that's the kind of like quick, responsive, conversational thing that brands need to be doing. It's like, hey, they've hijacked the campaign, run with it. Forget Run Happy. Please just forget Run Happy, at least for social.
Don't think like a brand. Think like a creator, period. Act like a creator.
1,000,000%.
Oh my gosh. Well, next time we may have to go like, how can brands actually work with creators? I know we talked about that last week, but I do feel like there's a ton of synergy there on like just letting some people cook. There's so much opportunity to pull people in, who can create fun content. Now, God, I want to go do that content with Brooks. Like that was such a fun campaign. All right, gents. We have come to time. We are over time. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. I think we're going to stick with the Fridays. if y'all have better times,
afternoons.
If y'all have better times, let us know. We will be in Boston here in about a month at a fun place together. So we are trying to formalize this. Y'all please send us any feedback that you got. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, everybody's socials. And any parting thoughts, gents? Oren, shoot, we didn't even address Oren. Oren's in China.
Oren's in
factory tours. He'll be back next week.
He's not in China. He got kidnapped.
Oh,
he got kidnapped by CCP.
Who did he piss off? Yeah, he pissed off a lot of people. Maybe big frying pan companies, culinary companies are coming after him. Non-stick pan coffee makers.
Oh my God.
Anyway, any plugs for anybody?
No plugs.
Any plugs?
No plugs for
Yeah,
me.
no plugs this week. Just excited to be back. Excited to always chop up the shit. And if you're interested in a sneaker collab that I think you should check out from a marketing perspective, check out Nigel Sylvester Jordan for RM.
Yeah.
They're doing an incredible job at this rollout, and it's literally getting better every day. All you need to do is follow Nigel's Instagram. It's quite dope.
Yep. I agree. And also their new Luca stuff is way better than the old Luca AI. So anyway, we can do a Jordan deep dive sometime soon. But all right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to the Brand Brothers. We'll see you next week.
Peace.